What up, YouTube? T-Movies here. With the tragic passing of Kirk Douglas, passing away at age 103, I decided to go ahead and do my top 10 favorite Kirk Douglas movies. Obviously, he was way, way ahead of my time, but I have seen lots of his movies on TCM and on TV and all. So, and he was the father of Michael Douglas, so you can tell talent really ran in the Douglas household. So, with that being said, here's my 10 favorite Kirk Douglas movies. Alright, coming in at number 10, I'm going to go with this film called 7 Days in May. Now, the film got released in 1964 and was directed by John Frankenheimer. And it stars Burt Lancaster, who leads this film as General James Scott, who ends up taking over the U.S. When the Liberal president, played by Frederick March, ends up appearing soft on Russia. And so you got Douglas, who portrays the local Colonel Martin Jiggs Cassie, who tries to help the commander-in-chief to stop his debacle plot before it's too late and all. And it was a script by Twilight Zone creator and star Rod Sterling. It even had great performances by Edmund O'Brien was great in this. John Frankenheimer was a iconic director. You had Martin Balsam, some really good cast members. This is actually probably a film that probably will hold up today, especially with today's political climate and all. I don't get political on my videos, but anyway, and Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas have worked together loads of times, so I got a couple of Burt Lancaster movies in this list. But if you guys haven't really seen 7 Days in May, it's a pretty decent one. Alright, coming in at number 9, I believe this actually, this was Kirk's last film, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta double check that. But my number 9 pick, I'm gonna go with It Runs in the Family. It's where these 3 generations of males, including, and it stars lots of the Douglas family. It stars Kirk Douglas, his son Michael Douglas, his grandson played by Cameron Douglas. Lots of Douglases are in this. But it's where these 3 generations of males, including Kirk Douglas, who plays the grandfather Mitch Gromberg, his son named Alex, played by Michael Douglas, and the grandson Asher, played by Cameron Douglas, is trying to chart their ways through personal behavior as they come together after Mitch ends up suffering a stroke and all. And Cameron Douglas, he really has a couple problems of his own, but Cameron Douglas was pretty decent in this. Michael Douglas was great. It was directed by Roxanne director Fred Shabassi, also starring Diana Douglas, Rory Culkin, Audra McDonough. You had Michelle Monaghan was in this. Some really great cast members. Great. It's a movie about family. They're very dysfunctional and all. If you guys haven't really seen It Runs in the Family yet, it's a really good one. Alright. Coming in at number 8, I'm going to go with The Fury. Now, this film is directed by Brian De Palma, who gave us stuff like Carrie, Scarface, and all. And it's where it is a teleconnected teen thriller where Douglas plays this former government agent whose son, played by Andrew Stevens, ends up being kidnapped by a nefarious associate played by John Cassavetes, I might say. And so in order to use his psychic powers for evil, he ends up enlisting the help of another psychic high schooler played by Carrie actress Amy Irving to track down his son before it's too late and all. And years before there was Stranger Things and all, we had interesting there was some interesting psychic power based movies, and obviously Brian De Palma's no stranger in psychic movies because he did Carrie, and this is actually one of Brian De Palma's most underappreciated movies. Come to think of it, when I did my 10 favorite Brian De Palma movies, I think I totally forgot to leave off of The Fury. That's how underrated this movie is. It's a really good one though. But if you guys haven't really seen it, it's a great action, a great psychic based film. It's a really good one. And great. Cool. The plot is silly, but it's still pretty decent. right, coming in at number 7, I'm gonna go with Ace in the Hole. Now this is directed by Billy Wilder, who gave us Some Like It Hot, and is the and is his skating media satire that provides Douglas with these most vicious roles as a ruthless, hard-drinking reporter who ends up being kicked out of every major news outlets in the country. And so, like, he ends up being stuck at the small-time Aberwick newspaper as he ends up seeing the opportunity to revive his career. But when this man ends up becoming trapped in a mine, he ends up exploring the story of for what it was. And it's a pretty good journalist-based movie. Although I don't care much for the talk. Ace in the Hole. It literally sounds like a golf movie, but it's a pretty good one. You also had Jan Stalling was in this. Bob Arthur. Billy Wilder was one of the most iconic directors. The Apartment, Some Like It Hot. Really, really cool filmmaker right there. All right, coming in at number 6, I'm gonna go with Champion. Now, years before we had boxing movies like Rocky, Raging Bull, and all. The Champion was actually really the movie that really paved the way for movies like for those boxing movies that we know and love today. And this was Douglas's first ever Oscar nomination. And he portrays Midge Kelly, who's this poor kid with this natural talent for fighting, who rises to the top by end up stepping on the backs of everyone he ends up meeting, and it's scripted by Carl Foreman, directed by Mark Robeson, also starring the likes of Marilyn Maxwell, Arthur Kennedy. Some really cool cast members, great boxing scenes. Even lots of like I said, you could tell that this movie was really heavy influenced by Rocky and Raging Bull, and yeah, everyone probably always thinks that Rocky was the one that really paved the way for boxing movies, but Champion is really one of them. But yeah, if you guys haven't really seen Champion, check it out.
Okay, let me.
Coming in at number 5, I'm gonna go with Lust for Life. Now, he ended up earning his third and final Oscar nomination for this film, which is directed by Vincent Minnelli, and it's this vibrant and adrenaline biopic film, and you got Douglas, who portrays the role of famed Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh, who tries to struggle with mental illness while trying to sell his groundbreaking artwork. And Anthony Quinn actually took home a Best Supporting Actor for this film. It's a really good one. It's also based on a book by Irving Stone, starring the likes of James Donald, Pamela Brown, Everett Stallone. Some really good cast members. And Douglas as Vincent van Gogh, it was really cool casting. You could really buy him as the role of Vincent. And yeah, if you guys haven't really seen Lust for Love, it's another Douglas movie worth checking out. All right, coming in at number 4 is another Burt Lancaster movie, and that is Tough Guys. Now, Tough Guys was directed by Jeff Canoe, and it stars Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas, who plays these two former gangsters who ends up being released from prison and ends up trying to collect their Social Security. And you got a parole officer who's this famous criminal groupie who ends up being a dead end where people end up don't knowing that they are dealing with the dangers and older criminals, and you got a hitman, and it's actually a really funny flick. And I always do love me good movies where old guys do show that they still have it, whether you talk about the Expendables or Las Vegas and all. Tough Guys is a pretty decent one. They go to crazy stuff, and I believe they were in their. I'm trying to remember how old they were. I think they were in their 60s when they did this movie, or 70s, or something like that. And the movie got released in late 80s. Boy, if you guys haven't really seen Tough Guys yet, go check that one out. It's a pretty good one. Kind of an underrated 80s gem, though. Alright, coming in at number 3, I'm going to go with 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Now, this is based on the classic story by Jules Verne. And you've got Douglas, who plays the 19th century sailor investigating these recent disappearance of whaling ships, and he ends up soon finding himself aboarding a state of the art submarine commanded by a megalomaniac Captain Nemo, played wonderfully by James Mason. And it's a really iconic one. Directed by Richard Fleischer. You also got Pierre Lorre. You also had Paul Lucas. Some really great cast members. But man, James Mason and Kirk Douglas working together was really cool to watch. Great. Interesting effects at the time. The movie got released in, I believe, the 50s, if I'm not mistaken, or late 50s. It's a movie that still holds up today. Heck, there are actually still studios, like, I know Fox and Bryan Singer have been talking years about doing a remake of 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but it never really came to fruition. But I'll be down to see one. But still, nothing could really beat the original. 2,000 Leagues is just one of his iconic roles, and if you guys haven't really seen it, go check that one out. Alright. Coming in at number 2 is one of the most iconic war movies of all time, and that is Path of Glory. Now, this film was directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it ends up having, and you got Douglas, who plays one of the most heroic characters as a French Kona in the World War I, who ends up refusing to continue with a suicide mission. And it's a really and actually it's a World War I movie, not World War II. So, but yeah, it's a really iconic one. Yeah, and it's definitely one of Kubrick's coolest works there. And it also features people like Ralph Maker, George McReady. You had Richard Anderson was in there. Some really great cast members. Great, really intense war scenes. Not as intense as the recent 1917 or anything, but there are some intense moments in this film, and it is one of Kirk Douglas' best performances he's ever given. I mean, yeah, if you guys haven't really seen Paths of Glory yet, go check that one out. Alright. Now, my number 1 favorite Douglas movie of all time obviously goes with his most famous one, and that is another Stanley Kubrick movie, and that will be Spartacus. I mean, years before we had the TV show Spartacus, years before we had 300, there was Stanley Kubrick's iconic Spartacus. And, I mean, the iconic line of, this is Spartacus, and all, great script by Dalton Trombone. This movie is really iconic. Great performances by Laurence Olivier, Peter Ustinov, who ended up winning a supporting actor for the Gladiator matchup. Great art direction, cinematography. Yeah, this Spartacus still holds up in today's standards, and it is definitely Kirk's best performance and best role you ever wanted to see. And if you guys haven't really seen the Spartacus from the 60s, go check that one out. It's a really great one. Alright. That's pretty much it. Let me do the quick rundown. 10, 7 Days in May. 9, it runs in the family. 8, The Fury. 7, Ace in the Hole. 6, The Champion. 5, Lust for Life. 4, Tough Guys. 3, 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea. 2, Paths of Glory. And 1, Spartacus. Now, he's been in some other great stuff over the years. The Vikings, The Bad and the Beautiful, Lonely Are the Brave. Let's see. There was the Strange Love, Cast a Giant Shadow, The War Wagon, The Final Countdown with Martin Sheen. Yeah, he really lived a great life. I mean, 103, boy. Who? I'd love to live 103. But anyway, Let me leave it to you guys. What are some of your favorite Kirk Douglas movies? Drop a comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for more notifications. This here's T-Movie signing off.